Hey, I'm Tig Tillinghast. I work with Urban Forest Metrix, and this is a video on how to do a tree inventory, in particular with the version of our software called the Accessible Urban Tree Inventory. This is the AUTI program. This is a federally sponsored program that gives licenses to small communities and nonprofits that has a simplified interface, and it's really meant for one person. It's not a cloud application where multiple people are accessing data back and forth. It's a much simpler version, but it's very powerful. And we're going to show you in this video how to do the good stuff, the inventory. How to get information out of it, how to do some reports, how to look at maps. A little bit of that. We'll have individual videos on some of those other aspects as well. But this is going to be a basic, get it going, start a tree inventory, and show you how slick it is. So we're going to start by showing you my screen. So here we go. This is the Urban Forest Metrix interface. It's what we call the tree screen, and it has all of the basic stuff you need all in one place. It talks about the species and other information you can put in about trees. And this is where we're going to really live in this video. So let's pretend we are walking down the street and starting our community's inventory. What we would do is go ahead and walk up to a tree. I might choose a species. I can select from the common name. Let's say it's a green ash, and it will automatically put in the Latin name here, Fraxinus. I can do the opposite. If I'm trying to figure out which maple I have here, I might look up the Latin menu and look for the acers and say, you know, I'm a sugar maker, so I'm going to choose this one. Oops, just selected the wrong one. Let's choose sugar maple. And we might put in a DBH. And you can see I'm doing this on the computer right now, but it will operate really identically on the iPad. The only difference is here I'm using a keyboard, and on the iPad I'm using the touch interface. Your community may or may not have you enter in more information, like a height, a drip radius, which is how far away the branches go from the center of the trunk. You may even put in some condition information. Generally, condition information is done by people who know a lot about trees, and you may be a town employee that's doing this, but if you're a volunteer for the town, it may be that they don't want you to put in condition information because that has some sensitivity to it, and they want someone who's more professional to do that. We also have over here some boxes we can click, like conflicts. This shows you what sort of problems the tree may have with other things around it. Like, for instance, one of the things that's very common is a power line conflict. So a primary power line conflict. And we also have a distance box down here. So let's say that power line is 2 feet away from the crown. That's useful information because we may come back later and realize a year from now that it's 1 feet away from the tree. And this allows us to sort of manage which trees are becoming a problem that actually needs to be addressed. There are cultural issues, and that's kind of a nice way of saying bad things people have done. Like maybe they put on excess mulch. And there are physical issues. And some of these, again, are judgments that your town might wish a professional to make. And when you are doing an inventory for a community, there will be a protocol. They will figure out, okay, we want these 5 fields to be filled out, and we want these folks who are knowledgeable about trees to fill out these things, and these other volunteers can fill out these things, but we ask that they not fill out certain other things. This is the sort of thing that you want to have established up front to have consistent data. We also have a notes field, and this notes field is fun. When I'm on the iPad, it automatically, so long as you're connected to the internet on the iPad, it will allow you to use voice dictation. So you can just start blabbing into the iPad, and it will actually type the words into this field here. So that's a fun picture, or rather a fun feature. We have pictures down here, and I can just, if I were on the iPad, I could just click on this box here, and it will say, what do you want to stick in here? We'd say camera, take a picture. Do you want to use it? Yes, it'll go right in here. And that's it. We just did a tree. Now what I want to show you all is how you can do multiple trees and how there's a rhythm to it and how this can be pretty slick as a result. But before I jump into that, I'm going to talk to you about visits. So we came into here and there was already a tree. And it looks like this tree was created last November. Let's say instead of putting in information about the tree for the first time, I am coming back and updating information. Well, what I would want to do is rather than overwriting this information by just changing the values, I want to add a new visit. And you see here in this little visit box, there's a plus and a minus. I'm gonna click on the plus, and now we have our April 19th, that's when we're filming this, visit. And you notice that there's no DBH there anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in the current DBH and put in a different note, and yeah, we can put in more information. And if I want to go back to see what it was like a bunch of months ago, I can click on that visit and it's going to show me it was 23-inch DBH in November, and it's a 24-inch DBH here in April, which for a sugar maple is pretty good. And that's that. The one other thing I want to show you on this screen right now is sometimes you'll have trees they're kind of stumpers in that they have multiple trunks. And people will be confused, well, how do I handle this? It's essentially, 3 trees coming out of the ground at the same place. Well, we have something called secondary stems. So you put in the DBH for the primary stem, as we have been doing. DBH stands for diameter at breast height. That is essentially the diameter of the tree, all the way across, at 4.5 feet from the ground. That's the standard measure. Well, if we have multiple stems, let's say we have that 3-stem tree, we put in the 24-inch for the primary stem, and I click on the plus button here for multiple stems, and I'm going to put in, another one of the secondary stems. I'm putting a 12-inch and a 13-inch. So we now have recorded all 3 stems diameters here, and it's actually calculating something over here. It says equivalent DBH. There's kind of some complicated math there, but it's essentially saying if all of these stems were combined into one big tree, what would that DBH be? And it uses a quadratic equation to come up with this 29.8. Don't need to know anything about that, but that's a useful number, particularly for the people who deal with trees in kind of a hands-on way. People who treat trees, people who remove trees, they need to know how much volume is there. If maybe there's a medicine that a tree needs to take, it's going to be the quadratic mean diameter, or the equivalent DBH. That is the figure that they need to know in order to do that. So that is the tree screen, and I'm going to just show you how slick this is right after I show you how to put the location of the tree in the system. So there's a simple way and a more accurate way. The simple way is you just touch this button, GPS locate. If I click on GPS locate on my iPad, it has a GPS chip in it, and it's going to say, you are here. And it's not going to be terribly accurate. It'll be 15 feet off pretty normally. But that's simple. You just press a button, and you just have to make sure you're next to the tree when you're pressing it. The better way of doing it is clicking this touch locate box up here. When I do that, it pulls up a map of this, where this tree is. This one happens to already have a location. And all I need to do is click where I want that tree to be. And it will actually change the latitude and longitude of that tree. Not only that, if I go back to the tree screen by clicking that box away, you'll see it has actually looked up the address. So when I click on touch locate, I can actually move this map around and click on a different tree, and it will now change the latitude and longitude. I have the center on tree now that I've changed the location. And it will actually look up this other address. So that's the simple way of putting in information, and that what I just did was very accurate. That typically gets within 2 or 3 feet of the trunk of the tree. So that's perfectly adequate for most tree inventories. So I'm now going to show you how to make a rhythm out of this, to start going with your trees, walking down a street, and making this pretty slick. So let's say that was our first tree. And we now are ready to go to our next tree. So we look down the street and we see what we're going to head to. And we might, even as we're walking down the street with our iPad in hand, we might start to put in some information. Maybe we can tell the species from that far. Often not. But we can at least put in the location. So as I'm walking to this new tree, I'll do a few things. I'm going to first click on this plus button on the top left. That's going to add a new tree record. So here we have tree number 2. We're still walking to it. I might put in the location of the tree. Now if I were to click on GPS, that wouldn't work well because it would give the location of where I pressed the button. We're on the way to the tree, and I click on touch locate. And let's say we're going to do this tree right here. That's next to that one. I click on it. So now while I'm still on my way to this new tree, we now have a latitude and a longitude and the new address. And by this time, maybe I'm close to the tree enough to know what kind it is. So I'll say it's going to be a quaking aspen. And I'm now close enough to actually see how wide it is. So I'm going to give it a 12-inch DBH. And whatever other data I'm supposed to put in here, I might type in a gibberish note. And I also might take a picture of this tree. Now, taking a picture of a tree is usually best done before you actually get close to it, because once you're under its canopy, it's not a great picture. I might actually do that while I'm still walking to the tree. And if I were on the iPad, I would just click on that field that says pick here and pull up the camera and take a picture, and it will go in there. Now, I don't have a camera hooked up to this computer, so I can't really show you that, but I could drag and drop let's see, what picture I have on my desktop here. Let's see what this is. And there's some foxes. Okay, we have a picture of a fox for this one. So let's see how this really comes together. We're going to keep walking. We're going to go to the third tree. I click on the plus button. There's tree number 3. I will locate it before we even get to it. So I click on that. That one's a little closer, so it's going to be coming up fast. I might put a picture in it. I'm just dragging another random. There's a picture of my children. And by this time, I'm close enough maybe to identify the species. And I'm going to say it's a yellow birch, and it's 14-inch DBH, and blah, 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 and its height is this. And I'm on to the next tree. So you can see how this can become very quick as you're walking down the street. In fact, what most people find is that it's the walking between each tree that is more of the limiting factor in terms of the time it takes to do an inventory. So it's the distance between trees that's a more controlling factor than fiddling with our system here. Now, a couple of things. We now have 3 entered trees. I'll just go ahead and fill this one out with some basic information, so that will have 4 trees. Boop. There, we got 4 trees. And one of the things you may notice is that whenever I click on this touch locate thing now, it shows me all of these trees. It shows me 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what we call our working map. This shows, what we've done, what we haven't done. I can figure out, I skipped a tree because it's not marked here. And if I were to create a map that maybe someone at the town needed to use, or something that was going to go up on the website, I would do something a little different. I would actually export this in a special map format. And we'll go into all of that mapping stuff later. Another thing that we would do is we might want to run some reports on our inventory. And we can go to our data page here. You see I'm clicking this icon up top. And we see there are different types of reports, like inventory reports, analysis reports. So I'm going to go ahead and click, just for kicks, our inventory species report. And here we've created an inventory with 4 trees, and it has a pie chart and a table. And it just went ahead and stuck that report into a PDF document and threw it into an email, so I'm now ready to send it to myself or to someone else. And again, we'll have another video about those sorts of reports and things like this, but this is just sort of a basic touching on those things to show you what you can do once you have this information in here. Now, another thing to note about this big 4-tree inventory we have here, is it's showing you all of the trees. And that's because we have selected all of the trees here. You see up on the top right, it says records in our found set. There's 4. Well, what if we wanted to show a certain type of tree? Like if I wanted to show only the trees that are less than 15 inches in dBH, for instance. Well, I'd go to the menu, and I'd go to say find, and all of these boxes become, they show these little magnifying glasses. That indicates that's a searchable field. And under the dBH field, I'm going to type in less than 16. And now you see that the records in our found set are only 3, because only 3 of those 4 trees were less than 16-inch dBH. And now when I go to the map, it's only going to show me those 3 trees. It shows me 2, 3, and 4. Apparently 1 was a bigger tree. So it's showing me just these 3 trees. Now if I go to my data page again, you'll see one of these reports. This is the tree assessment matrix. This is essentially a basic inventory, one that doesn't have pictures in it. And it asks me if I want to do that, or the one next to it says just found set. Now what that's going to do is, rather than show me all 4 trees, it's just going to show me those that are part of my found set. So that allows me to output reports with just that particular set of information. So that is the basics of reporting, the basics of mapping, the slickness of running through trees. And below you will see additional videos for more detailed versions of some of these things, like let's really get into mapping and things of that sort. But this will get you going. If you have any questions, feel free to visit the support page at our website, forestmetrix.com. And Forest Metrix is with an X on the end. And feel free to send us questions, send us an email, and we're always happy to help.